Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can watch us on Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. You can also find us in Alabama. Yeah, we're back in Alabama again with the television station there. It's Channel 182 on Charter Communications. Real proud of that again. And again, the biggest country station in North Carolina and South Carolina and all over the world, because the World Wide Web, right? I got myself out of that one, Jody, sort of. But anyway, you can find them. And I'll have to tell you, so Benji Greason is the owner of the station. He also has a morning show. And so it's a good show. By the way, the kids can actually listen to this one. Okay. It's a good, clean one. And so he said, you know what? A lot of people from Alabama have been listening to the show here lately for some reason. And I said, Donna from Alabama. So anyway, it's a good station, so you might want to catch up on that one as well. But I've got Jody Powell with me right now. And Jody, it's always so much fun to have you on the show. And I just appreciate everything you do.
Well, thank you, Donna. It's always a blast to come and be on the Donna's Edge, and of course to be on the biggest country music station in all of South Carolina. And hello to my good friends down in Alabama as well, and all over the world. This is exciting.
Oh, it really is. So let's talk a little bit about what, now you also have a show, a talk show. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we're on Abundant TV as well. We're on every third Wednesday of the month, and it's at 8 p.m. It's a show called Men Like Us. And Donna, it's really something that myself and Rob, the owner of Abundant TV, Rob Patz, it was his idea, but it's also kind of my passion too. And that is to have a safe space for men to really be able to express the struggles that we have. Mm-hmm. We suffer in silence way too much, and we hold things in and we don't share things. And so this is a talk show where just 4 normal guys, myself, and I'll rotate in 3 guests, and we'll look at things that men deal with, both from a worldly perspective, but also from a biblical perspective, and give, sometimes we give advice. Sometimes we say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. I need some advice. And we know that if we're struggling with it, then I'm sure that there are a lot of men out there that are struggling with it as well. And so it's just an opportunity to share in those struggles that we face as men. And there's also, ladies, there's also a woman's show that deals with the same thing. It's called Salted. So you want to check out those 2 shows on Abundant TV. They're fantastic.
Oh, they are great. They absolutely are. I wanted to ask you a question, though. This pertains to different generations, different decades of men growing up. And it always seems like some event seems to change the way everybody looks at everything. You know, in the 1950s, you had your father knows best and all this, stuff going on. But then in the 1960s, the hippie era, and so it's almost like we got away from parenting during that era. And so we kind of saw the results of that.
Yeah, I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm a latchkey kid. Brought up basically getting my own snack after school, unlocking the door, and locking it back, and not letting anybody else in, and sitting down and watching cartoons in the afternoon, and then doing homework until the parents get home. Before that, you didn't have 2-parent working households as much, but it seems like as my generation grew up, that became the norm. And then some of it actually flipped a little bit, where you had, the working mom and the stay-at-home dad, with Gen Z and Gen Y, the millennials. I get them all confused. After Gen X, I don't know what you are. You're post Gen X. But yeah, parenting roles have shifted some. But I think it's always important for as parents, and I have two grown kids, and they'll tell you that I probably screwed up as much as any parent out there. But I think it's always helpful for parents to go back and really understand biblically the roles that we play. And when I say the roles that we play, what I mean is what it is that we're instilling in our children, and the values that we want to instill, and how we go about doing that. I've seen, and I know a lot of adults now that aren't really plugged into society as much because their parents were more their friends than they were their parents. And kids don't need friends as their authority figure. They need parents who love them, of course, but also set those boundaries. And sometimes I think those lines get blurred.
Oh, I think so too. And my son, now we're friends, but he's like 48 years old. So, I mean, we can be friends. But I wasn't the cool mom. I mean, I didn't want him going to places. I always wanted to know everywhere he was, and I wanted to know who his friends were. Yep. Do you think that's important for the parents to know who the friends are?
Oh, I think it's incredibly important. I was the same way. I wanted to know all of my children's friends, and I wanted to know their parents. I kind of wanted to know a little bit about them, what kind of home life they come from, not so that I could say, no, you can't be friends with this person, that person, but more so that I could help my children, kind of guide them into that relationship they're going to have with that friend, and helping them understand the challenges that may come based on how different people are raised. If you're raised a little differently, you might approach things differently. And so as a child and you're learning and developing, you kind of have to adjust and learn how to communicate with your friends, because they have different home lives than what you had. I know when I grew up, I thought everybody was raised like I was. And even in our marriage, my wife and I are going to celebrate our 29th year in April. And so, our first year was learning how we were different and how we were raised and how we approach things. Mm-hmm. And that was strange to me. I'm like, well, you weren't raised the same way I was, and she wasn't. They just taught differently and had different dynamics. And so I think it's important to know your children's friends, their situations, so that you can help your children kind of navigate those waters of communicating and understanding where people are coming from and different perspectives.
Well, Brad's friends all cost us a lot of money, and that was food. And so, but I'd rather have it that way. So what I would tell Brad, I'd say, no, just let the guys come to the house. Okay. I'll bake cakes and stuff like that. And you sure you're good with that, Mom? And their parents were good with it because I was feeding them. So it was costing them less after. But I got to know exactly what they were doing. And I'd hang around too. And sometimes they thought I wasn't listening. And I would just, nonchalant walk around. But I would hear things they said, And another thing is I let the guys all know I did spot checks in Brad's room. And Brad, one time I told Brad, I told all the boys, I said, I do spot checks. And so the guys just kind of looked at me really funny. And Brad was like, I'm embarrassed. And you're embarrassing me and all this kind of stuff. But it was important that they knew I would do that. And they never knew when it was going to be. Because someone could sneak something in there and Brad could take the rap for it.
That's right. That's right. And that's really important to why you want to know the friends and kind of who they are. And I love what you said. You just kind of hung around and listened, and as if you weren't in the room paying attention, but you were listening. That's when you really find out who people are, is when they don't think the parents are listening, and they start talking about things, and you kind of get where their true heart is. And what else we did? And I don't know if you did this with your children, but we placed apps on their phones so that we tracked them. We knew exactly where they were, where we at least knew where their phones were. And they weren't going anywhere without the phones, but and we told them, like, listen, we're going to know where you are. And this is how, so, and you don't have the ability to turn it off. It is what it is. So be where you're supposed to be where you tell us you're going to be. And they always did. And I don't know if it was because we had that tracking device or because they were just, they were just afraid of what would happen if they got caught. But yeah, I think it's just important. We have to keep our children in view and understand who they're hanging out with, who they're friends with. And I think that's just critical.
I think it is too. And then you have to think about grandparents now who are raising grandkids and they're not that tech savvy.
Yeah.
And they don't know what their grandkids are doing, and so I know a place in Alabama, and I'd like to see if there's something like that here, where actually it was a support group for grandparents who are raising their grandkids, and they're teaching them about technology and things like that. They're going to pull one over on your eyes. I promise you they'll do that if you're not really careful. And it was a useful group. I mean, this was very eye-opening.
Well, and that's really important too, not just from a standpoint of understanding and not having the wool pulled over your eyes, but also our children are vulnerable the more connected they are. The social media, the different types of platforms that are popping up and the different things that they're exposed to. And, as new platforms come online, there's less protection in some of those because they're so new. And, you have to be careful of what your children are doing on their phones and online. Yeah, we'd have spot checks on the phone as well. But you never know who is there trying to be a predator. And, it's our job, it's our responsibility to protect our children in that way. And they don't see it that way. They see it as invasive and embarrassing. And that's okay. They can be embarrassed for a little while if it means they're a little more protected.
Yeah. But you want to know what embarrassing is? So I was in school. It's like the 6th grade, something like that. And we just have a party, at the school, and the teacher's trying to teach, and my friends would be talking and stuff like that. Well, my teacher told Dad about that. And she said, "No, I don't know how she's keeping her grades up, but she and her friends are having themselves a good time when I'm trying to get them to listen to me in class." So Dad talked to me about it, and he said, "You never know when I may show up at school." And guess what he did? And so this, I'm still embarrassed. See how my face is turning so red? So this is what he did. My friend was turned around. Vicky was talking to me, and then she just turned around all of a sudden, and she went like this, like for me to look. And I looked, and Dad was standing propped up at the door.
Wow!
I never did it again. That he could have beat me to death, and it wouldn't have done the same.
and it was effective. It was effective. I've made that threat. I never carried through on it though, but it's like you never know when Dad's going to show up in your classroom. You better turn around and be quiet.
Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. So Brad is a party, class, the clown, all this kind of stuff. He could throw his voice and make all these, and he uses it in ministry, which is a great thing now. But during school, it was not a good thing. The teacher was very upset about that. And so now they started getting really strict in schools at this time, see. And so I said, I'm going to do him like my dad did me. And she said, "What'd you do?" And I said, "I just showed up one day, and he showed up, and he was propped up at the door, and I never did it again." So she said, "Well, we can't let you do that, security reasons and all this kind of stuff." I said, "I'm begging you, let me do it. You'll have a class after I do this." Yeah. And then she said, "Well, all right, we're going to see." And so I did. I stood there, and I was trying hard not to laugh. He looked like his skin was about to shed off his skeleton. I mean, it's like he was about to die. And then I just looked at him and I went, and then I
That's great. Embarrassment is such a great parenting tool.
God, and it worked. And so and it wasn't perfect. I mean, kids are going to just try, but they know how far they can go. Yes. And it wasn't very far with me. So one time he says, "Because my dad made me, I was a preacher's daughter. So I had to be home by 9. So anyway, I said, when I have kids, it's not going to be 9. And so, but it's not going to be like 3 o'clock in the morning either. So I told Brad, going out the first time with his buddies, I said, 12 midnight. You knew home by then, not a second after. Well, he's having fun. And Brad, time flies with him, kind of like the show with me and you. Time just flew by. And so it was 2 o'clock. Ooh. I was sitting there with the lights turned off in the kitchen. And so I thought he was going to pass out then. He opened up the door and turned the lights on, and there I was. Staring at him.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's effective as well. I mean, that's startled. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 2 hours. Now, 10 minutes is one thing. 2 hours is a little much.
You didn't do that again. So, but anyway, there's things you can do. You know what? We've got to go into a break. My sponsor's going to be upset if I don't do this. So we'll see you guys back in just a few minutes. Okay, we'll be right back. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. Good afternoon, Sunshine. Medical Minute brought to you by Dr. Chuck with Lakeland's Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. So what is the Beamer? Okay, now the Beamer uses very gentle pulse to electromagnetic signals. This will stimulate healthy muscles and it supports the temporary blood flow. Now let's talk Beamer and circulation support. Now the Beamer gently supports natural circulation in healthy muscles. Now that's what I call natural health. Thank you so much for watching your Medical Minute, brought to you by Dr. Chuck. You know who he's with. He's with Lakeland's Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. I hope you have a super duper awesome rest of the afternoon. You take care. Shine your style at Kiss My Glass right here in the Anderson Mall. There's a place where style meets sparkle. At Kiss My Glass, every piece is handcrafted, custom designed, and made to shine just like you. Owner Beth Gibson brings creativity to life with stunning custom tumblers, gifts, and one-of-a-kind pieces you won't find anywhere else. Look for the perfect gift or something uniquely you, from bold and glamorous to simple and elegant. There's something for every style, so stop by, get inspired, and leave with something unforgettable. Kiss My Glass inside the Anderson Mall, Anderson, South Carolina, where your sparkle begins. Be sure to check out Kiss My Glass on Facebook for updates and specials and gift ideas. Okay, we're back. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Donna, and I'm your host, and Jody is also the host too. So we're just having a good time here on the show. Let's talk a little bit more about your show, because I know this is not Father Knows Best anymore. I mean, we're not the Waltons. It's nothing like that anymore. This is a whole new world, opened up more opportunities to split families up. What are guys saying right now?
You know, it's interesting, Donna, that some of the topics that we've been hitting on that we've been getting like a lot of really good response on. One was our episode that we just had a couple of weeks ago. It was on passivity in men and what that looks like and how that kind of creeps into relationships, not only just your marriage, but as we were talking about our children, relationships with our children and what that looks like. And it's what's scary about it is that it's not really a conscious choice. And like most men don't choose to be passive or to just let things go or to step back. It's a process over time of things that happen or you know, kind of how the world just lays all the burdens on your shoulders and you just get tired and you get exhausted. And so sometimes passivity can show up when, you know, you feel like everything is fine and you don't really have to say anything to your spouse or your children. Relationship's going good, everything's smooth, nobody's having a panic attack or nobody's freaking out. And what you don't realize is that your silence and your lack of interaction is actually having a terrible impact on your spouse, on your kids, on the relationships that you have. Yeah. And you don't even realize it. Like as a man, most men think, oh, well, there's no scuttlebutt, there's no tantrums, there's nothing, so everything's fine. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean everything's fine. There still needs to be pursuit. I preach it all the time. Pursue your spouse. Even if you've been married as long as I have, keep pursuing your spouse. It doesn't stop on the wedding day. You haven't arrived. There's so much more to do. and to make her feel just as special as she felt when you were pursuing her, when you were dating. And your children need to be just really reinforced that dad not only loves them, but is there for them to talk, to hear, to be a sounding board. Because a lot of times what dads will do is just kind of passively check in. You doing okay? Okay, good. Let's go throw the ball around. And that becomes the thing when the child is needing somebody desperately to talk to about a situation at school or something that's bothering them. They don't feel like they can talk to the dad because the dad doesn't seem like he wants to hear it because they're being passive. So that's just one of many. We've had great shows on expectations, and that was right around the holidays. So expectations around the holidays really go up. But just expectations in general for men. Sometimes we get in our own head and we think that we have to be the fixers and the doers of everything, and that's not always the case. And so it can be an internal struggle. It can really lead to some mental health crises in men, just really trying to keep up with what they think they should be doing versus what the world really expects from them, and really what the Bible says that they should be doing.
Well, everything is different. Like we were watching television. Phil and I are just old movie buffs. We like these old detective shows, And so we're watching something, and I said, it's like every other commercial is like a dad or a mom that is telling people that TikTok is safe. I mean, you're seeing stuff like that, and then you're seeing a lot of gambling commercials. It's like one after the other. It's just like on and on and on and on and on. And I mean, that's not a good influence for kids and then it's like a young person who goes, I got $1,000, like everybody wins. Everybody's in business to make a profit, even the gambling places.
Well, and that's one of the things we were talking about earlier, the dangers of some of these social media platforms. You see it a lot on video like YouTube and on TikTok and some of these videos that you'll see, older individuals, and I say older and they're younger than me, but adults playing games on their phone saying, I just made $78 playing, slots or whatever. No, that is not a job.
Everybody can't win. I mean, not everybody.
It doesn't happen every time.
It's such a lie. But those young minds see that.
But what's interesting, children today, they've been raised in an environment where everything is on demand. You can pick up your phone and 10 minutes later, a gourmet meal will be delivered DoorDash at your door, or you could watch Netflix and see an entire season of episodes of television. So this instant gratification mentality is leading to, I think, a situation where kids are going to be like, oh, well, I can play a game and make money. Oh, I can kill two birds in one stone. I have a little bit of entertainment and I can have a quote unquote job. And we're losing, I think, some of the core values that really made, number one, this country strong in work ethic and really stable. And two, I think we're just losing some of reality. These things aren't sustainable. I don't know of a business model that says, play my game and I will pay you money, that stays in business very long.
It won't be around too long. I'm just telling you, that's the way it is. And this is another thing. They're not teaching. I feel like I was I love math. I represented the school in the math contest and all that stuff. So, I just love math. And I told you, I think one time about Brad coming in from school said he had to have a calculator. And I'm like, no, you don't. That's cheating. Because when I went to school, you could be expelled for bringing in those Texas Instrument calculators they had. Not one so bad. My dad said, you're not getting one. You're a math student. You're going to think with your brain. And that was another mess I had to get straightened out, Yeah. So I just feel like the school systems and there's some wonderful teachers out there. Wonderful ones. But I'm just telling you, so many people are teaching the wrong thing. Like, what sex are you? You're confused about your sex. Just stupid stuff like that. Yeah. And these kids are growing up hearing that.
Right. And to us, it's like, what are we doing? This isn't the way it should be. But to the kids, they don't know anything else. This is the way it is for them from their perspective, because, it's shocking to me too, that I was watching a video of some teenagers, and the person interviewing them said, what year would you consider somebody to be old? What year would they be born in? They were like, oh, 2002. They're old if they were born in 2002. I'm 2002. I was like 10 years into my career in 2002. What do you mean? But it's just that perspective. You know,
I remember though. Yeah, let's give them a break on that though, because I have an uncle who is 7 years older than I am, and I remember, and this is my uncle, my mother's brother, and I remember when he was 13, when he turned 13, I was like, gosh, he's a teenager now. It was like so cool. He's 13 years old. Now I look at a 13-year-old like.
Exactly.
You're nowhere near grown when you're 13.
Well, they think they are at that age. Boy, I tell you, raising kids through the teenage years is a prayer and test of faith.
It is. And it's so funny though, because I remember apparently Dad wasn't a saint and neither was Mother growing up. And I remember I wanted to go somewhere. And I mean, it wasn't anything lavish. I wasn't a wild kid. I liked reading and I liked kind of, being a nerd. I was just the classic nerd growing up. And so I told my Uncle Pete, he said, what are you sulking for? And I said, Dad won't let me go to whatever. And I didn't know Dad was listening and I didn't know it. So he was in another room. He had ears like in the back of his head. But anyway, so my Uncle Pete said, oh, he's just afraid you're going to do something he did. Well, then I was like, well, what did he do? He was about to tell all. And then Dad comes around, shut up, Pete.
Right. Yeah, don't be telling my secrets. That's the fun thing though, Donna. And you mentioned being friends with your kids now that they're grown. I remember very specifically, and my kids are grown as well. They're in their 20s. I remember the moment that, especially my youngest son, realized that Dad wasn't just this authority figure. Like he had a childhood. He grew up. He made mistakes, and it's easier to, and it's fun to talk about that with your adult children.
Yeah.
And they, what do you mean you failed a math test or you cheated on the geography test? What are you talking about? You would lock me in my room for 2 weeks if I did that. Well, yeah, I would, but it doesn't mean I didn't do it. Oh, they're just appalled.
But I think that they figure there's a thing called redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you I was a boring kid. I didn't do a lot. But say, I don't think I cheated on a test. I'm trying to think of something. Again, not perfect. I'm pretty sure I did some stuff. I'm just not remembering what it was. But when they realize that you're a human being,
yeah,
you struggle too.
Mm-hmm.
And you did.
Yeah.
I did tell my son about this though. I grew up in a household. The parents didn't get along with each other. It was kind of interesting. And and there are people who prey on that. The people who sell drugs and stuff like that. And they will notice a kid who acts a little bit out of source. So this guy noticed that out of me. And so he said, you'll be able to forget all that stuff if you take this whatever weed it was. Because I was too tight with my money anyway. But I did think about it.
Yeah.
And so I told Brad about it. And he said, did you think about it? And I said, yes, son, I thought about it. And I almost did it. And he said, why didn't you do it, Mom? And I said, I loved my grandparents. I didn't want to disappoint them. That was the biggest thing. You know what? We got to call it a day, Jody. I can't believe this. Show
goes by so fast.
My goodness. How can folks get in contact with you?
Reach out to me on social media. Contact with me on Facebook. You can contact with me on Instagram. Certainly through Abundant TV, through their app. You can find Men Like Us. It's on demand on the Abundant TV app. And of course, new episodes drop every third Wednesday of the month. So April 15th is coming up, our 5th episode. Donna, we had incredible numbers on the 4th one. I'm hoping for even higher numbers of streams and people watching on the 5th one. It's going to be great. Tax Day is when we're actually dropping that episode. We may actually do an episode on the financial burdens that men go through.
Oh, that'd be a good one right there. And I'll kind of sneak in and listen to it if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jody, for watching
Thank
and
you.
for hanging around with us. And thank you guys so much for watching the show. Continue sending email. Makes my day. Donna at donnasedge.com. Donna at donnasedge.com. See you next time. Bye-bye.